All right, boys. Let's see what we got here. 44.3. I pushed too wide on T1 on this one, so we're not going to count this. This is the fastest I've done so far. I think a 44.1 is doable. There were some things I did wrong on this upcoming lap we're about to watch. I'll explain where I think the time could be made to gain those 2/10. But the rest of the lap overall is, for my ability, it's about as far as I can push it. All right, so let's run through real quick. I'm braking just after the 300-meter mark. I went down to second on this run. Other runs I've flirted with second and third, just trying to get a feel for it. Either will work, to be honest. Just try to beat a power as soon as you can. Try not to push out too wide. You want to be back to power before you reach the apex, but be cautious if you do put your right tires on the left side of this red and orange strip. You will get a 1x. We have plenty to flirt with, but there's going to be a lot of laps in this race, and you don't want to rack up your off tracks and get a drive through. So. It's important to get a good drive out of this corner, but it's also important to not get a drive through. So I would try to find a good happy medium to where you're not over pushing it. You're not pushing the boundaries too much, just to keep yourself safe. There's a white line in the road right there. I'm braking shortly after that just to scrub some speed down, and I am hopping over the right I guess you would call it just rumble strip. Basically, I'm as close to the retaining wall as I can possibly get to keep momentum through the entire bus stop. Let's take a look and see how close I actually am. I actually haven't done this yet. So yeah, I'm fairly close. I have not hit the wall yet, and I've done this, in the GT4 a couple seasons ago, quite a bit. So do what's comfortable for you. I cut it pretty aggressively. I haven't had any issues. Seems to work for me. But I think that's the best way to carry speed through. You just got to be safe about doing it. Maybe a light, I didn't tap the brake, but maybe a light tap of the brake as you're starting to turn left to kind of get the nose down to help rotate the car if you feel you're going to push wide on this section. Acura doesn't really have a problem. I'm sure some of the other cars may need a slight application of brake, but in the Acura it's fine. This is one issue I had. Usually, and I'll show what I'm talking about in just a second. Usually I'm a little bit wider, a little bit far more left than I am now, and I'm cutting this point right here where it's kind of double stacked. It's a little bit deeper, the strip is. I usually want to be back to full power at that point to carry as much speed up and around the corner. I didn't lose a whole lot of time, but this wasn't the perfect ideal line. It still works, but I want to say on the relative, I lost maybe 4 or 5 hundredths, but over the course of a lap, that adds up. Just before this little, I think that's a manhole cover or a drainage ditch on the right over here. Just before you see that, you're gonna brake. I go down to third, and I'm turning in a little bit later. This car will push. I know it's the Acura, does it? The Acura pushes pretty wide on throttle, so I want to take a more wide entry, so that way when I'm back to power, I'm not having to crank the wheel as hard. Keeping that slight brake pressure to keep the nose rotating, and I'm going to be back to power as soon as I feel confident that the car's not going to push too wide. In this car especially, right here, if you hit that grass at all, it's going to unsettle the car tremendously, and there's a potential for the car to want to spin. It'll bottom out, and just the car will just go whatever way it wishes. So try not to get off in the grass here, especially if you're in the Acura. This is another point I felt I left some time on the table. I took too aggressive of a turn in. This turn is cambered. You don't want to try to turn in too late, but I turned in too early here. I think if I'd have held off a little bit on my turn in, I could have got back to power sooner and just carried more speed up and out. I think a tenth was lost here. I'm going to brake at the 200 here. I also flirted with going to second or third here. I prefer second. It tends to, I can get the car slowed down, and it tends to not push out as wide. I don't personally like to push out too wide here. There is a potential when the tires start to get some wear in them that if you do cross over this too aggressively and try to cut back across the track, you might get a little unsettled, and you might even push wide and get an off track here, because if you touch the grass on the left right there, you will get a 1X. And I think coming up is where I lost the most time. I needed to stay in the throttle longer, do like a half throttle lift, because this car, like without an actual 100% throttle application, the car will naturally want to rotate. See, I let off far too early, and if I would have waited just a split second later and done a half lift, I could have gone back to power much sooner. I think probably another 10th was lost here. I've tried third or fourth here. I prefer third. I was in fourth this one. Just testing out what could carry more speed out. Neither really had a pro or con. I just think third allows you to really get back in the power quicker. I don't know the torque curve on this car. I'm sure the power is more beneficial in the top end of the power band. So I use third most of the time, fourth on this run, but you know, either or. Trying to hit that wall. Hitting that wall will probably give you wheel damage. I've hit it a couple times, and not major taps, but some damage. And I think that could really be a a race ruiner, especially here. So that was it. A 44.3. I did some testing in the fixed setup because IMSA's there this week. Yeah, 43s are easy on that setup. With more time, I could probably get a low 43. But I had seen some laps on fixed setups, and I was like, how are people getting 43s? And I just think the fixed setup is faster here. The conditions aren't too much dissimilar from the IMSA right now. I mean, we have a slightly warmer track, but overall, it's, a 10-degree track difference I don't think is going to make that much of a difference. But the fixed setup did seem to rotate better, has a little bit better top end. But I think on the high downforce setup, I think that's probably right around the fastest I'm going to go. I don't know how the other guys are going to do. We have some fast boys in the league, so for me, this is about maybe a 44.1 is about where I'm going to be, maxed out at. But there is a guide. There it is. I hope it helps. I'm still going to be working at it because I feel like I did leave some time on the table, but right now it's just trying to get consistent, getting those times as low as possible, consistently as possible, and without any off tracks. So yeah, there you go. Hope it works. Hope you enjoy.